Hello there, my name is Edward, and today we're going to go over the ancient system of law in ancient Hawaii, known as the Kapu system. The Kapu system was deeply ingrained as a set of spiritual, social, and political laws that structured Hawaiian society before its abolition in 1819. The Kapu system was rooted in Hawaiian cosmology, where everything in the universe was believed to have a spiritual component known as mana, a vital life force that existed in people, animals, plants, objects, and even the land itself. Mana was not distributed equally, however, and those with the most mana, the ali'i, or chiefs, and the kahuna, or priests, held sacred authority, which they believed came directly from the gods. Starting off, we have the ali'i, the ruling class of chiefs and nobles, kings, high chiefs, low chiefs, considered to be of divine origin, who ruled specific territories and held their position on the basis of family ties and leadership abilities. The chiefs were thought to be descendants of the gods themselves. Ali'i were considered sacred because they were believed to possess a high concentration of mana. This made them sort of semi-divine figures in Hawaiian society. Specific laws to protect their sacredness were enacted. First, there was the body and shadow prohibitions. It was kapu to touch the body of a high-ranking ali'i, as doing so was believed to contaminate their mana. Even their shadow was considered sacred, so it was forbidden for a commoner to walk in a chief's shadow or to stand directly above them. Disregarding this law could lead to immediate execution. The next was lele wawe, prostration. When an ali'i passed by, commoners had to lie on their face, down on the ground as a sign of respect. The act of standing higher than or looking directly at an ali'i could drain their mana, a public offense also punishable by death. Kahunas, the priests, who conducted the religious ceremonies at the heiau and elsewhere, and master craftsmen, experts in medicine, religion, technology, natural resource management, and similar areas, also ranked near the top of the social hierarchy, were also afforded great privileges. Next on the list, we had the maka'ainana, commoners, the largest group in Hawaii who lived off the land, primarily laborers, farmers, fishermen, and the like. They labored not only for themselves and their families, but also to support the chiefs. Directly below them and at the bottom of the social hierarchy were the kawa, or social outcasts, the untouchable, possibly lawbreakers or war captives, who were considered unclean or kapu. Their position was hereditary, and they were attached to masters in some sort of servitude status. Marriage between higher castes and the kawa was strictly forbidden. A polytheistic society, the Hawaiians worshipped 4 primary gods in addition to many others. The main 4 were Kane, the god of creation, life, and sunlight; Kanaloa, the god of the sea and the underworld; Lono, the god of agriculture, peace, and fertility; and Ku, the god of war, forests, and strength. The Kapu system was seen as a way to honor these gods and maintain balance between the physical and spiritual worlds. The chiefs and priests, who were regarded as their intermediaries between the people and the gods, enforced the Kapu to prevent divine wrath, manifested as natural disasters, poor harvests, or military defeat. Next, we will discuss the Ali Kapu, or eating taboo. It was one of the most significant laws in the Kapu system, particularly in terms of gender rules. The rules governing the relationships between men and women, especially regarding food, were as follows. Men and women were prohibited from eating together. This segregation was based on the belief that women were inherently lower in mana compared to men, and eating with women could dilute or corrupt a man's mana. Next was the forbidden foods for women. Women were restricted from eating certain foods that were considered sacred or tied to male gods, especially pork, sacred to Ku, bananas associated with the phallic symbolism of the male god, coconuts, the round shape was linked to the male gods and mana, and certain types of fish. Men's sacred duties were as follows. Men had to prepare food in the imu, or earth oven, and offer prayers to the gods before they ate. Women were forbidden to participate in this process, and they could not enter a male space of eating. Moving on, let us talk about the religious Kapu's sacred days and rituals. Religious observance was tightly controlled by the Kapu, with certain days dedicated to specific gods. These days were called Kapu days, and during these times, everyday activities could be severely restricted. The Makahiki festival is one of the best well-known religious festivals for the ancient Hawaiians. Dedicated to the god Lono, it was a period of several months in which war was Kapu, forbidden, and instead, Hawaiians engaged in religious ceremonies, feasting, and games. This was a time of peace where Kapu regarding warfare was strictly enforced. Sacred rituals were held. Many of these sacred rituals required strict adherence to the Kapu. For example, during sacrifices at the heiau, or temples, only priests could perform these rituals, and any mistake in the ritual could result in a spiritual consequence, like famine or mass disease. The Kapu system also had a critical role in managing natural resources. The ancient Hawaiians relied on their environment for many things, and Kapu laws ensured that the suitable use of the land and sea was conducive to long-term sustainability. There was a Kapu on fishing. Certain fish were Kapu at specific times, particularly during spawning seasons. Fishing in those times or in areas marked as Kapu could result in punishment. For example, a chief could declare a Kapu on fishing grounds to allow fish stocks to recover. Land Kapus. Certain areas of land were considered sacred and were off limits to the general population. This could include forests or volcanic areas linked to gods like Pele. These lands were restricted to high-ranking priests or chiefs, and commoners could not trespass without risking severe penalties. Finally, agricultural Kapu. Agricultural production was also regarded by Kapu to ensure the proper care of crops, particularly staple crops like taro or kalo. The breaking of agricultural Kapu could be seen as an affront to the gods, threatening the community with famine. Next, let us talk about pu'unua, or places of refuge. The Kapu system was very rigid, and the penalties for breaking Kapu were very harsh, often involving death. However, there was a system of pu'unua, places of refuge, that provided an escape for violators. Ho'onaunau, located on the Big Island, was one of the most famous places of refuge. If a person broke a Kapu and could escape to one of these sacred refuges before being captured, they could be absolved through a ceremony performed by a kahuna. After the ritual, the individual will be allowed to return to their village without punishment. However, if they were caught before reaching the place of refuge, the punishment would be dealt out swiftly. These places of refuge were also places of refuge during war times. If a person fled to one of these sacred refuges, they could not be pursued or killed, as these areas were considered sacred and outside of the realm of violence. Finally, let us go into the enforcement of the Kapu system. Violating the Kapu was seen as an offense against both the community and the gods. Some of the common forms of punishment included death, of course. The most common punishment for serious Kapu violations was death. The execution could be carried out by clubbing, or stoning, or strangulation. There was also drowning or sacrifice. In extreme cases, especially religious violations, the violator could be sacrificed to the gods. This might occur at a heiau, or temple, where the person would be offered as a human sacrifice to appease the angry deities. There was also caste enforcement. Chiefs or ali'is and priests or kahunas enforced the Kapu laws, often using a system of lower-ranking enforcers called kahuna lapa a'u, medicine priests, who had powers to heal or punish those who violated Kapu. These individuals were both feared and respected in the community for their knowledge of spirituality and of medical practices. The Kapu system remained in place for centuries until its abrupt collapse in 1819, following the death of King Kamehameha I. Several factors that contributed to its downfall were, of course, changing political times. After King Kamehameha the Great united the islands, there was a power shift, and King Kamehameha II was influenced by his stepmother, who held significant political power. This and many other influential figures in the court saw the Kapu system as an obsolete relic and moved towards greater modernization and greater authority. The second would be foreign influence. The arrival of Westerners, especially Christian missionaries, had a profound effect on Hawaiian society. Western culture, religion, and values undermined traditional Hawaiian beliefs. The missionaries' message of a monotheistic God, combined with a more egalitarian worldview, conflicted with the rigid hierarchy of the Kapu system. Third would be the symbolic breaking of the Ai Kapu. The actual abolition of the Kapu system came when King Kamehameha II publicly broke the Ai Kapu by sitting and eating with a woman, including the queen, an act that openly defied the long-standing food taboos. This symbolic gesture shattered the authority of the Kapu system, leading to its rapid decline. All in all, the aftermath and legacy of the Kapu system is very profound. After the Kapu system was abolished, there was a period of upheaval as temples, heiau, were destroyed, sacred objects were defiled, and traditional religious practices were abandoned. However, the impact of the Kapu system still lingers in modern Hawaiian society, especially the cultural respect for sacred places. Well, that was my video, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you got a glimpse back in time to see a time so different from our own, one in which it had people struggling with the same ways to order society and live in a world that can be harsh and confusing, but also beautiful. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.